Chappy. And this is Junior. Keep it locked here. AdrenalineUndergroundRadio.com.
Isn't this the year COVID's gone? Isn't this why we're holding on? Now we're in the year 2022. Say goodbye to 2021. Didn't have a whole lot of fun. Now we're in the year 2022. Forest fires were burning for sure, and we felt that burn forevermore. All the people were asking for aid. It felt like fighting the final crusade. All the years that led up to this just became a line on a list. Try to find the line, the right one for you. Say goodbye to 2021. Didn't have a whole lot of fun. Now we're in the year 2022. Closing down the things that we loved. Told to wear a mask and a glove. Changes to the old Constitution, bringing us to a new revolution. Conspiracies are growing by the day. Human rights for those who can pay. Vaccinations are given to millions, while the pharmaceuticals make their billions. Everyone is scared to socialize, making Zoom calls, staying inside. But if you have a spare 50 million, there's a place in space during Armageddon. Isn't this the year COVID's gone? Isn't this why we're holding on? Now we're in the year 2022. Say goodbye to 2021. Didn't have a whole lot of fun. Now we're in the year 2022. Is now the scared new world. Everyone can sing the song. Don't stand so close to me. Isn't this the year COVID's gone? Isn't this why we're holding on? Now we're in the year 2022. Say goodbye to 2021. Didn't have a whole lot of fun. Now we're in the year 2022. Isn't this the year COVID's gone? Isn't this why we're holding on? Now we're in the year 2022. Say goodbye to 2021. Didn't have a whole lot of fun. Now we're in the year 2022.
Chappy and Jrs Podcast, out on all your favorite media streaming platforms, featuring raw and uncensored Fridays.
Hi, this is Mickey.
And this is Mary.
We're from Aldo Rocks, and you're listening to my good friends at Adrenaline Underground.
This is not made up. I've been working in my house all day, so I look kind of happy.
Right. Well, my face isn't made up either, so, you know, don't worry about it.
It's all good. So let's go ahead and get this started off with, go ahead and introduce yourself, name of the band, what instruments you play.
Okay, yeah, okay, well, right, my name's Chris Birkett, as you know, and I'm a kind of award-winning record producer, singer, songwriter. Got my name on over 100 million records so far.
So
Well,
I've looked at your list of people that you have worked with. There's quite a few. My favorite one, and I have to ask you this question, Sinead O'Connor, how was she working with her?
she's okay to work with, but it wasn't an easy project. We did an album called I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got together, plus a single called Nothing Compares to You.
I love that song. That is my favorite song.
Yeah, you may not be aware of this, but Sinead didn't write that song. It was written by Prince.
Yes. Yeah, no, I knew that.
And the recent documentary that just came out with Sinead last year, Prince's family wouldn't allow Sinead to use the song on the documentary, so it's a bit of a drag. So it was, I think there was a kind of like some problem between her and Prince at the time.
Wow.
Might have been. I knew that she had like a lot of issues going on, personally and stuff like that, but I didn't like know that her and Prince like had an, an offbeat, relationship or whatever, that they weren't getting along.
Yeah, I don't really know the details. I can tell you some stuff about working with Sinead, as a co-producer and engineer and mixer at that time, which I was also doing. She grew up in a really strict Orthodox Catholic family, and her mother was very cruel to her. She wouldn't.
Yeah, I knew that.
That stuff's in the documentary, but
yeah,
I could tell you some stuff that's outside of the documentary, which is just between us and whoever's listening. She was. Sinead didn't really like recording studios, so we did that album, which, as you know, it sold like 40 million copies or something. We did that album in literally
one of them.
really is one of the fastest records I've ever made, because, like, for example, Nothing Compares to You, she came in and she did that vocal in one take and then just went home. So she didn't like recording studios. She didn't actually like the business either. She when Nothing Compares to You was a big hit, she had to do a concert at Hammersmith Odeon, which is one of the big venues in London.
Yes.
And I was there with the label. She was signed by Ensign Records, Ensign Chrysalis, and I was the Ensign go-to producer at the time. That's how I got to work with Sinead. And so we were at the concert, and she came on stage and she's doing her stuff, like Stretched on Your Grave and all the stuff from the album, and came to do the big hit, Nothing Compares to You. And she said, she's on stage. She said, thousands of people listening. This is a song that I didn't write, and if I'd known it was going to be a fucking hit, I wouldn't have done it. And excuse the French, but that's what she said.
Oh, you're good.
No, you're fine.
And the label were like, what's she saying? Somebody shut her up. They didn't like that at all. But in fact, it's for me one of the reasons I would like working with Sinead and people like Buffy St. Marie and other people I work with, is that they believe that they're not really in it. They're not in music business to be famous and make money. They're in it because they have a serious passion for their message. And Sinead had a big message about female rights, because she came up with in a really suppressed society where there was no rights for women at all.
Yes.
And she wanted to make a statement about that. And so it wasn't about fame and all that stuff. It was about getting the message out about truth, and I think that any true artist
I think that's probably what her big draw was towards, just the famous part of it. It was because she was very raw. She was very real. She made a statement that at that time, back in the 80s, us women coming up and, growing as people, we could understand that because there was a lot of diversity and stuff going on in the 80s, especially over there, in
In England,
like South Africa, and a lot of stuff going on here too. I think that there's just, her ability to become one with like people, women in general, and showing that, yes, I came from a terrible place and I'm passionate about what I've got to say, and I think that just kind of bridged a gap for a lot of women writers and singers to come on and go, hey, this is my story, let me tell it. And there's a lot more women that, do that now than before.
Yeah, the thing is, what most people don't really understand and appreciate is that females have been suppressed for thousands of years, and,
yes.
and most religions are male orientated,
Yep.
They're still going on now in the Muslim world.
Yep.
And some other cultures. There's no say. There's like the women don't exist. They're all like they have the status of almost donkeys or horses or something.
Well, I mean, they're treated for goats and
Yeah, exactly. So and that's still going on.
Yes.
A lot of third world countries who, in my opinion, are still. I'm not judging anybody. I just think that it's barbaric and they're not evolved enough yet to understand that we need equality on this planet in order to evolve. Unless we get to a point where we have total equality between the sexes, we're not actually going to evolve on this planet. And that's why we're so isolated in the universe. We're not contacted by other cultures. It's obvious that there are billions of life forms out there and far more advanced than us. But we're still in a really barbaric stage of our evolution. And two of the things we've got to do on this planet before we are able to communicate with the rest of the universe is, one, we have to have equal rights, male and female rights, and two, we have to stop eating animals, and we have to treat our animal kingdom with respect. And until we get to that point, we are still considered a hostile, barbaric planet, and we're just put in quarantine, and that's the way it's going to be. I believe that's changing. I'm an eternal optimist, and I think that what's happening now, with the help of people like Sinead and Buffy Sainte-Marie, who's another campaigner for equal rights, in terms of indigenous people, but also women, I think that these people are forerunners of a new human race, and I think that's really positive. I think we're living in really exciting times because we're seeing this whole change happening right now. So,
yeah, I believe so too. Another thing, I listened to your song "Merry Go Round."
Okay, that's not been officially released yet, but we're going to put that out in the. Yeah, what did you think?
But I totally understand that. I listened to it and I was like. Yeah, I have.
I'll tell you why I wrote that song, if you're interested.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a book out by an author called Anthony Williams, and I recommend everybody to get this book. It's called Medical Medium, and this book is a true account of his evolution as from a little child into an adult, where as a child he was contacted by angelic kind of voices, and it was which I call angelic entities, which are here with us now, but they're invisible. But
I completely agree with you on that.
We're surrounded by people that are trying to help us, entities that are trying to help us, and they have to be invisible for obvious reasons, because we're not ready for full contact. We talked about that earlier. So anyway, this voice was talking to him even as a kid. It's in the book. You've got to get the book. It's called Medical Medium. So he was sitting at a dinner with his family, and this voice said, "Go over to your granny and put your hand on her chest." And he said, "Well, I'm not doing that. What are you talking about?" So, but he was trying to ignore it all the time. And he said, "Do what I say, and you'll see what the results are." So he put his hand on his granny's chest, and then he said, "Tell your granny that she has to get herself checked for cancer, lung cancer." And so he said, "Well, they're going to think I'm a fool. What did you do?" So anyway, he said that, and then it turned out they listened to him. They all laughed at him at first, but the family sort of said, "Okay, let's do that." So, and it turned out that she did have the beginning of lung cancer, and it saved her life because they caught it early. But these voices were talking to him constantly, and